With the removal of most daily scape activities, entire skill overhauls, rebalances to early and mid game, a complete combat overhaul, and a brand new continent being added to the game, a lot has happened in the last year within RuneScape. That's not even me mentioning the fact that Treasure Hunter, RuneScape's loot boxes, have been removed, and that we only have directly purchasable cosmetics and bonus XP stars as MTX now, besides bonds of course. Whether you're watching this to get caught up on what's been going on in the world of RuneScape in preparation for leaks, or simply because you haven't played in a while, in this video I will have you covered with everything you need to know to jump right back into your adventures through the world of Gielinor. My name's Chevalric, don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, and enough yapping, let's talk about everything RuneScape in the big 2026. Let's kick this video off with one of the fundamental systems to RuneScape, skilling. Within the last year, we saw 3 proper skill overhauls, all of them coming with lots of new additions and quality of life fixes. Thieving, dungeoneering, and construction. There were also some other minor changes to skills, but we will cover them in the early/mid game rebalance section of this video. Let's kick off with the least exciting one of the 3, dungeoneering. Where the other 2 saw a lot of major new content and mechanics added, dungeoneering mostly stayed the same. That's not to say that there weren't a lot of meaningful changes being added to the skill, however. The XP and tokens gained from completing floors have been rebalanced and made a lot more rewarding by buffing them by quite a lot, even in solos. They also got rid of that weird and confusing prestige system and added a floor buff system, effectively giving you the effects of the wildcards that used to exist and also have been removed. This now makes it so that it's best to complete a variety of floors instead of either farming the highest one or having to run the lowest ones through to the latter ones like you used to before. These buffs cycle through things like 1% damage reduction, skilling speed boost, etc. You can see the entire list on screen if you are interested. There were also a lot of meaningful smaller changes that I think made an even bigger impact. Necromancy has been added, puzzles have been improved and made less annoying. This also goes for some bosses. Yes, Blink is now not a pain in the ass anymore, as you can see where it actually spawned for and you can do the mechanics properly. If you ever used the Alt1 plugin as well, that showed you where each key was and what door was where, that is now actually an feature built into the game, so you no longer need a plugin to make that work. Let's move on to a much more exciting overall with the introduction of 120 Thieving. Where the usual 110 skill expansion saw a copy-paste idea being applied with the +5 armors and whatnot, Thieving saw an actual overhaul and in my opinion should be the golden standard, and seemingly it seems to be to what a skilling overhaul should be. Because it also tackled some issues with the entire skill progression, not just post 99. Not only did we get new stalls, chests and NPCs to pickpocket post 99, we also saw new ones added in gaps before reaching the higher levels, allowing a much more smoother journey to actually get to the good content, and they even dropped some decent loot for the relative levels, as you have been seeing on screen, that actually help you when you need that loot. However, they didn't just add these and called it a day. They also introduced a completely new skilling activity to RuneScape, Heist. No, not the minigame. The Vault of Horridetus and Asuran Arsenal, I try bro, like these names are tough, are 2 completely new skilling activities where you have to complete 3 rooms to reach the final one and loot the big chest. The goal of this activity is to fill up the looting bag that you receive once entering the dungeon, and by being caught, some of that loot will be taken away. These are not just your best in slot trading methods at 95 and 108 respectively, giving you a hopping 1.9 and 2.2 million XP an hour once you master the dungeons. They also give you some really good upgrades. They drop a tier 90 bow and staff, which both are mainly used as special attack weapons, but also a new dagger, an armor spike upgrade, and a necromancy head slot upgrade. So yeah, safe to say that these are pretty good. The final major skill overhaul we saw was to construction. Just like thieving, its skill gap was also raised to 120, and with it came a whole host of changes. Do you want a fountain in your living room? Awesome, you can do that now. Not you just being able to place anything everywhere, you also get various room shapes and freedom to place them wherever you would like to, just like your furniture in any direction. So yes, you can also put them sideways now, which is actually really cool. You can just not use them then, which is weird. But anyway, they also changed how the skills train. The days of placing and removing furniture are gone, and you make them at a workbench now outside of the POH portal in Remington. And then you put them in your storage to then place them wherever you want. Whilst customization is cool and all, it also saw a lot of utility added to it. A fairy ring, spirit tree, war's altar, a combat dummy, portal nexus, and a jewelry box can now all be built within your player-owned house. The coolest thing, however, which I never expected that I would say, doesn't actually entail any of the utility things here, but they are the trophies. Each boss now drops a trophy that you can place in your house to showcase. Think the Barrow's chest by getting the Barrow's trophy, or Carapac Fracture Staff of Armadale hanging on your wall after receiving the Carapac trophy, which is pretty cool if you ask me and just gives you another reason to go to these bosses. Where skilling is one major part of RuneScape, the other one is obviously combat. The community called the combat update EOC 2.0, but honestly, it is what the evolution of combat should have been from the start all the way back in 2012-2013 when released. This update brought a simplification on how combat works. If you played around with Necromancy before, every combat skill now works similar to it. What that means is that instead of starting off with 5 ranged, magic and melee abilities, you simply have your basic attack, then unlock an adrenaline building ability, and then a spending one, unlocking more and more abilities as you're leveling up. This effectively is teaching you step by step how combat works. Generate adrenaline, and then spend adrenaline. At level 20 or so, you can even get into a bit of an early game rotation with the abilities available to you, which is actually really cool, as in the late game, rotations are what differentiate the nerds from the plebs. Yeah, not sure which one is better in that comparison, but hey, let's move on there. To not overcomplicate this section too much, as there were a lot of changes to specific abilities, adrenaline costs and how that all works, on top of a lot of abilities being removed and a few ones being added, what it effectively has done is it made combat a lot easier and more accessible to understand when you're freshly jumping into the game. You can even get a decently good action bar set up by right-clicking the cog on your action bar and loading one in. So the days of having to watch a YouTube video just to slay a hill giant are hopefully over. One final thing that is often overlooked with this update is the reduction on the eating penalty that used to be there. Have you ever wondered why you never really had adrenaline early on? Well, you were probably eating food. It used to drain 10% adrenaline with each chomp. They changed that to 3% on top of you generating more adrenaline as it is to allow for better adrenaline management early on. Something what wasn't greatly managed, however, in my opinion at least, is this next update, but it's still important for you to know about it. Regardless of me being very critical about how Jagex handled this update, more on that in the video in the top right corner, Havenite has brought a decent amount of content to the game that has some relevance to you. I hope. Yeah, it's quite hard for me to be really excited about this, even till this day, as I think most of this content was kind of dead on arrival, but here goes. Havenite is free to play. Kind of, as a lot of the activities are still only available to members. They added a new fishing activity, allowing Ironmen to better gather their own edible foods, which includes lobster, swordfish, shark, and a new giant crayfish. A few summoning obelisk has been added that allow you to make pouches AFK, giving you more experience per pouch and a chance of saving supplies at the cost of less experience an hour. They also added birdhouses, not like the old RuneScape ones, as these are more of an active training method where you run a birdhouse route to claim your XP, which is okay-ish, but nothing meta-breaking. The highlight of this area, so far as of me making this video, another expansion still to come, are the available quests with this cutie featured in them. Like, honestly, I am generally just in love. The Moonrise Dig Site, offering the relic that stops adrenaline drain from food completely. 110 Hunter, pretty much adding Big Game Hunter 2.0, which is your new best installed hunter training method. However, the biggest highlight that even I can't bash as a Haven hater are the two early game bosses, Ivar and the Silver Quill. These bosses teach new players how to dodge mechanics, prayer flick, and deal with minions, on a very forgiving environment. Ivar even drops special bones, which you stop getting at 100 kills, that give you just enough experience to get to 43 prayer to unlock your protection prayers, which you need to take on the boss. Yeah, okay, let's just move on to the next section, shall we? The best update of them all. Where I'm very critical of one update, I'm an absolute white knight for another. The Road to Restoration. Jagex's effort to undo the terrorism committed to our game with MTX, retention rate daily gameplay, and the terrible balancing that came with it. Effectively restoring the game to what many RuneScape players remember the game to feel and play like. There's a lot to cover with this, it honestly can be its own video, so I'll pick out the major highlights that will apply to most of you. If you want to know even more, I'll leave an updated playlist in the description down below for you to check out extended cuts on specific Road to Restoration updates and my opinions on them. Let's speedrun some of these, shall we? Before covering the major ones in a bit more detail. The UI has been improved, introducing the classic interface mode you have been seeing for most of the video when seeing an actual interface. Free rune metrics, the Grand Exchange has been improved to actually show you relevant prices, and some graphical changes to the free-to-play areas to make them look more RuneScapey. Now let's start off with my absolute favorite update out of all the Road to Restoration ones. The daily scape overhaul / removal. The days of wilderness flash events, hourly caches, daily sandstone runs and other bullshit you had to do every single day that you had to set the timer for to do every hour on the hour are gone, removed, yeeted. Well, the daily aspect of it. Besides the wilderness flash events, traveling merchant, model load mall and divine locations, they are actually fully gone. The only real daily left are farm runs, which is simply just how the skill works and there's nothing Jag can really do about it. Caches have been reworked to open up after collecting enough energy at a rift for you to do the activity as before and get a bit of a bigger speed drop every once in a while with no limit to it. Sandstone can now be mined infinitely, Reaper tasks can now continuously be picked up with a weekly Reaper point cap, and after reaching that cap you can continue to do your Reaper task, but you will simply just not receive Reaper points and get Slayer points instead. And yes, daily challenges are sadly still here. They can't be extended anymore and the weekly rewards are gone, and are truly the only flaw to this update. But hey, it's a better hit rate than a lot of the other updates. Another big one, in a similar vein to the daily scape changes, is the aura overhaul. They're gone, brother. No exceptions. No more hourly gameplay tied to using an aura. There were obviously a lot of auras, so I won't go through all of them, but pretty much what they have done with most of the effects, both the skilling and combat ones, is adding the power directly to the skills themselves. Take the Lumberjack aura for example, which used to give you an increased percentage rate chance to successfully cut a tree. This power has been redistributed over the tiers of tools you're using. A similar thing happened to the other gathering skill ones as well. The thieving, runecrafting and farming auras all have been added to their respective skilling unlock stores, the Thieves Guild, Runespend store and Sidekick Store of Balance, as a passive one-time purchase unlock. The combat auras, giving you better accuracy and damage, had their power redistributed over their 120 skill expansions, effectively making 120 magic similarly strong what 99 plus aura used to be before, but a bit stronger and slightly different as the abilities were also reworked, giving you different power than when auras were still around. TLDR, combat was buffed across the board, auras are no longer a thing. You might be wondering what happened to your beloved Penance and Vampirism auras. Healing, prayer and health respectively, well, they are now spells on the Ancient Magic spellbook, allowing you to cast a slightly worse version of the aura as a buff to your character that can be stacked up to an hour before having to recast it again. The only other aura that has seen a change differently to what I just mentioned is the aura that you used at Fires. It's now just added to your Sun Spear as a passive unlock once you upgrade your Sun Spear, so that also gives you a reason to upgrade it besides the trim comp requirement that's tied to it. Finally, we have a whole host of rebalances to skills and activities, which we will quickfire through. Agility saw buffs across the board to everything, as the Silverhawks that gave you passive experience will be completely gone on January 1st, making the skill a lot less painful to train regarding experience rate. Both Hunter and Divination saw changes in their catch rates, effectively giving you better experience an hour. Gilded Altars are once again best in slot for prayer trading in the big 2026. On top of the thieving changes mentioned earlier, it also saw revision to pickpocket rates, making it a lot less painful early/mid game and giving you better loot across the board. Part of that loot is a whole host of herb seeds, finally giving you a good source to collect them early on and start farming them. Some of the salvage, up to adamant salvage, have been reverted back to actual items, bars and ores again. Something I really hope to see more, as salvage has always been weird to me. I know why it was introduced to make mining and smithing more relevant, but it didn't really do that, so please just revert it back. Like, it's really nice when you're early game and you get like a rune met helm upgrade and you're like, cool, I can actually equip that, and that's really, really cool. Fletching saw a retiering of items craftable, boss instances are now free, God Wars Dungeon 1 kill count will no longer drain when teleporting out, and God Wars Dungeon 2 drop rates are now boosted, effectively doubled, equivalent to how you had max reputation before. The reputation system is still there, but it only unlocks the skybox and invention components now. Some final things: Harp skip more dust, all the negative invention perks are removed, and Dive is now an unlocked ability without a quest. And that's everything that happened in the last year that you should know about. Leave a like if you did enjoy it, subscribe if you're new, and my name's Chevalric, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye.